So you've just come out of surgery having your prostate removed. That's a prostatectomy. And now what? Well, today I'm going to tell you all about recovery, what'll happen in the first couple of hours, first couple of days, and first couple of weeks after surgery. And hopefully you'll get some tips and pointers that will make this experience a lot easier for you. Let's get started. So here I am at a hotel in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm just about finished my seventh of 8 weeks of radiation for a recurrence of prostate cancer, and I'm just comfortable on a sofa here, and thought it would be a good idea to talk about surgery and what happens immediately afterwards. What I'm trying to do with my podcast series is bring up different elements of the whole experience of prostate cancer, from early diagnosis to getting ready for surgery, the surgery itself, and then what happens right afterwards. So this particular episode is really going to focus on what happens when you wake up after having your prostate removed, and what happens next, and what do you prepare for, and what do you have to know and need to know. I went through some of this in my original video series, which I published in 2015, but I just thought maybe it'd be good to have an episode just on what happens after surgery. So here we are. I should also, in the next 2 weeks, be back in my home studio, which has better camera and sound. But for now, it's me and my MacBook and a sofa and good old Diet Coke, right? Okay. So let's talk about the recovery from surgery. When you have your surgery, and I'm speaking mostly of robotic surgery, Da Vinci robotic surgery. I'm imagining if you had laparoscopic surgery, which is a more manual method of removing the prostate, the recovery would be similar, but I guess it will be. But anyway, when you go in for surgery and they knock you out, if you've ever had surgery, you know, it takes a few seconds and then boom, you're out and you're gone. So what seems like just seconds later, you open your eyes, you're in this recovery room. Sometimes there are people around you that are also recovering from surgery, but you kind of wake up, and if you have people with you, they probably be in there with you when you wake up. And you sort of look around, and all the anesthetic is starting to wear off. You're a little groggy, a little dopey, but for the most part, you just sort of you perk up and you're awake. You don't feel anything. You really don't have a sense that anything has happened, because you really, well, you know, I think you have a lot of stuff in your system that will not give you the sense that anything has happened, but you're there, and you'll notice that out of the side of the bed, under the sheet, there is the tube of a catheter. And I've mentioned this before, but the catheter for me was the biggest fear about going into surgery. The good thing is they insert the catheter while you're under, so you know, for whatever it's worth, you don't have to be witness to it initially going in, but it is there when you wake up, and at that moment, it's just something that's there. I didn't want to look at the part of the catheter that was inserted in my penis right there and then. I was still a little afraid of it. I didn't know what to expect, and I think I worked myself up a lot for no reason at all, because at the end of the day, when you do wake up and the catheter is there, you really don't feel anything. The good part of having a catheter is that if you have to go to the bathroom, you don't have to get up. It's a lazy man's way of urinating. So as your bladder needs to empty urine, it just goes out the tube and into a bag that's down there on the side of the bed. And for the whole time you're in the hospital, there are people changing your bags, etc. So anyway, it's there. It wasn't until the second day that I actually looked to see it inserted, and it was just, you know, it's not shocking, but it's not a very natural thing to have. But so you're going to be in recovery for a couple of hours. And if you have family with you, they're allowed in the recovery room with you, and they'll sit with you and talk with you. And then at some point, they're going to take you to a hospital room. Back in 2015, when I had my surgeon was Dr. David Samadi, and at that time he was operating out of the Lenox Hill Hospital, which is in the Upper East Side of New York. A very famous, very classic hospital. They had beautiful hospital rooms for Dr. Samadi's patients. And if you are fortunate enough to be working with a surgeon that does a lot of these surgeries, there's a chance they may have dedicated rooms for their patients, which was the case with me. So after maybe 2 hours in recovery, maybe it was 3 hours, I was wheeled up to my room, and that's where I remained for the next 2 days. So my surgery was done very early in the morning. I think it was like 7 a.m. I was in surgery was about an hour, hour and a half, if I recall. But I think by the time I got up to my room, it was about noon. And so you get in the room, and you're there. Your voice is a little groggy because while you were under, I guess they have breathing tubes in you, and and there is, if you go back to my 2015 videos, I did shoot on my iPhone videos every twice or 3 times a day, twice a day, I think, for the first couple of days, just to capture exactly what I was going through. So I invite you to go back. There is a video where the thumbnail shows me in a hospital gown lying in the back of a bed, and I wanted to capture my thoughts at the moment, but my voice was hoarse. There wasn't really any pain to speak of. And, the deed was done, the prostate was gone, and I was then in my mind celebrating the fact that at the time, potentially the cancer was also removed with it. And that, for the most part, is what happened. Um, so when you, let me back up a little bit then. So when you're in surgery, assuming they're using a Da Vinci robot, they will make 4 to 6 small incisions in your front area, and these rods go in, and each rod contains a mechanism that helps for the very kind of small surgery. One's a scissors, one's sort of a little clamp. But anyway, these prongs are in your body. They're moving some organs around to kind of accommodate them so they don't harpoon them on the way in. But the bottom line is, when your prostate is removed and your urethra is attached to your bladder, your body is under severe stress and trauma. And what your brain does essentially is your brain sends a signal throughout the body to just put everything on standby while it can figure out what's going on. The brain doesn't know you're having your prostate removed, but your brain knows that your internal organs are going through trauma. So one thing that happens at that time is your bowel function goes dormant. And I believe your urinary function goes dormant as well. But you will have fasted before surgery. There's no food in your system. But the bottom line is, when you are then in recovery or back in your room, you have to at some point get the systems working again, and that's done very slow and very methodically. So how does that work? So we're at the point now, your day of surgery, maybe you're 12 hours later, 18 hours later. You're not going to be given solid food to eat, but for nutrients, you get liquid food. You get soup broth. You probably will get some type of iced lemon ice, like a sorbet, um, water, coffee, these sorts of things, but no solid food. And I'm not sure why that is. It's probably because the bowel system is not woken up yet. So if you take solid food, it will then, the body maybe won't process it properly. But what does happen at some point is that they will wait for you to pass gas. And once you've passed gas, that is the signal that your brain has, well, if your body passes gas, your brain then has started to get things functioning again. So until you can pass gas, and for some people it's a day. For me, I think it was 2 days. You're going to be eating liquid food, not solid food, and then you can start eating solid food again. So that's just kind of the sort of the diet part of it. But getting back to how you feel and what that first day or the first 2 days look like is they want you the same day of surgery. So you've come out, you're in your room, that very same day of surgery, they're going to get you up on your feet, and they're going to make you do some walking in the hallway. And this is all part of getting the body back kind of restarted again. So they stand you up. You can't get up on your own. You feel a lot of soreness in your belly area. It's nothing horrible, but you feel it. But they will stand you up. They will take the little bag, your little urine bag. They will attach it to one of these. It's the same. It's like the type of thing that they put an IV on one of those rolling sticks, but they put the urine bag there. They put your hand on the stick, and they walk with you up and down the hall. And you'll do this probably every couple of hours for the whole time that you're awake. So that day you'll do it a few times, and it's surprisingly not difficult to do. The kind of a funny assistance for the whole time you're in the hospital. Also, when you're lying in bed, they should, to prevent blood clots in your legs, they should there's sort of like a machine that your CADs go into, sort of like two U-shaped things that have balloons in them. And then while you're lying there, these will inflate and uninflate just to kind of get things moving along. So the whole first day and that first night, you're just sort of in reactivation mode. Now you are on painkillers, and for me, they gave me Percocet, which I think it's an oxy, I think it's oxycodone with Tylenol, something like that. Yeah, that's exactly what it is, and it's lovely. I can see how people get addicted to it because it's a wonderful, wonderful medication. But I'm the kind of guy, I don't like to take aspirins for headaches. So I took the Percocet for the first 2 days because I really didn't want to be faced with pain, which isn't really there. It's just a lot of soreness. But in any case, they do have you are hooked up to an IV also the whole time. And what I forgot to mention is when they take your pee bag and put it on that IV thing, there is an IV there. There's a saline bag into your IV, so it's all kind of there. But there's a morphine switch. So if you're really in pain, it's little switches hanging by your head. You can kind of grab it and push a button, and you get morphine put in your system. I refuse to take morphine for this because the pain wasn't that severe, and I just don't ever want to be in a place where I have to take morphine unless I really need to. So that was sort of that kind of first day. There will occasionally be bladder spasms. Your bladder has basically your prostate is attached to both your urethra and your bladder. And when they cut it out, they actually cut a small hole in your bladder, and then they match up the urethra. So your bladder has really been traumatized as well. So for me, it was for about a week. Throughout the day, you just kind of felt these grumblings, and I wouldn't say they're painful, they're just uncomfortable. And by the way, there was nothing, not for a minute from surgery and then for weeks after, was I ever in a point of excruciating pain. Never, never, never. It was just more discomfort. And I never had problems sleeping either. So that gives you an idea of the level of discomfort. But you want to be at peace. You don't want to be uneasy all the time. The second day, I woke up, and a lot of the anesthesia had really worn off because the anesthesia, they wake you up, but your body still has this stuff in it, I think for about a day, if I'm not mistaken. But you wake up the second day and you really feel the soreness. But as I just said, it's a discomfort and it's not a horrific kind of a feel. But I woke up, I got another liquid meal, still no gas, and just kind of spent that day, I guess, healing, walking every hour. I had a lot of people come visit me and watch a lot of TV. But other than that, it was really nothing remarkable. And I really thought it would be a lot worse. I thought I would be just in this horrific state. But, even getting up and walking within a couple hours of surgery was something I didn't expect I'd be able to do, and I did it quite easily. So, this is basically the first couple of days. Some people are released the day after. I was in the hospital for 2 nights, and I was released on the third day. Your catheter will be with you for about a week after surgery. And what will happen is about a week after, although I had it a few more days, about a week after, you'll go back to your doctor's office, or if you are in town for the surgery, but you go back to where you live, which is not in the same place you had surgery, Your doctor's office will remove it. It's very easy to do. And the removal of the catheter, it's not daunting at all. It's just something you don't want to do yourself because it's kind of weird. But there is the catheter itself. What keeps it in your bladder is there's a balloon that they blow up. I think it's either water filled or I think it's water filled. And then when it's time to bring the catheter out, they drain the balloon, they pull it out in just a second, and there's no sensation whatsoever. It's not like never anything pain. And let's face it, guys, the idea of there being something inserted in your penis for a week and in your bladder just doesn't sound great. But the fear I had of the catheter prior to surgery was unfounded, as it turns out, because the experience was just fine. It's something you get used to. Um, the other thing is, if the time you had a catheter in, there is a point in time where you will have to have a bowel movement, and that's a little tricky because when you're having the bowel movement and you're squeezing and you know the regulate the fecal material when it comes out of your body, it's muscles that are kind of pushing everything out. That is a little bit sore. You have to remember your entire insides had surgery, so bowel movements, they're a little uncomfortable. They're not painful, but they're just, it takes a few days before they get to be a little more comfortable. And so that's kind of that's the post-surgery experience. When you leave the hospital, and between the hospital stay and when your catheter is removed, I made the mistake of not eating well. I ate a lot of junk food because I was in New York and I just wanted to have basically everything. New York had great food. So I ate a lot of the wrong foods and I ended up being very constipated. And when it was time for my catheter to come out, they want you to have had a bowel movement before the catheter comes out, and I didn't. And they wanted to delay me, and I insisted. I just wanted it out with. So they took it out, and because I was constipated and everything was inflamed, I had a lot of pain, and so the catheter went back in for a couple more days. But if you eat well between your hospital stay and when the catheter comes out, you should be fine. And eating well means, salads, chicken, unprocessed foods, fruits, vegetables, coffee, smoothies, this sort of thing. Just the kind of foods that will kind of keep your bowel system going. I was eating fried chicken and French fries. I went down to Katz's Deli for a great pastrami sandwich. I had hot dogs. I had street side bagels with cream cheese, all that great stuff that New York has, and probably shouldn't have in hindsight. But anyway, I survived, right? So let's fast forward just a little bit, because I want to talk a little bit about, let's call it the week after surgery up until maybe 30 days post. So let's call it the 3 weeks following surgery. Um, when the catheter comes out, you will know very quickly about your I'm sorry, not erectile function, about your continence. And so what will happen is the catheter will come out, and you want to buy yourself some Depends pads. They have shields and pads, which are basically, it's just a little flat absorbent pad that you stick in your underwear. And so when they pull the catheter out, at least in my case, they wanted to see if I could hold the urine. So what they did is they filled up my bladder. Before they took the catheter out, they filled up my bladder with water through the catheter, pulled the catheter out and asked me to hold it, and then asked me to pee a little bit and then hold it. And I was able to, I mean, to my delight. That's not always the case. I probably would say half of the men that go through surgery, maybe more, maybe less, half won't be able to hold the urine right away, which is just fine. It doesn't mean there's going to be an issue. Some people can hold it right away. I believe the reason I was able to hold urine right away was because I was fanatical about Kegel exercises, and I just did a recent video on Kegels and the importance of them. So anyway, I was able to hold it. It didn't mean I didn't leak and I didn't have accidents, because I did. But the fact that I could hold urine at that moment that the catheter was removed was a sign in the right direction. So what I did is, for the weeks that followed, I wore shields or pads in my underwear. And when the pad is thinner, the shield is larger. So you start with the thicker one, and what will happen is you'll be caring about your business, and then you won't feel that you've peed, but you'll notice your shield is getting a little heavier, kind of like a baby diaper, right? For those of you with kids. And then you just go to the men's room and you toss aside the shield and put a new one in. So that'll happen for a couple of days, even though I was able to hold it. That would happen from time to time. And then as the days and weeks move on, it was just easier and easier to kind of hold things in. It took me, I think it took me 2 years before I was completely free of the odd accident. And so within a few weeks, I could remove my shields and pads and carry on. And I really didn't have a problem. The only time I would leak is a little bit if I was working out at the gym. Sometimes I would squat and there would be a little bit of a squirt. And there were a few other times where I went out drinking, and sure enough, I looked down and I was completely soaked, and it's kind of embarrassing. But there were only a few incidents of that. But by about the second year, it just never happened, and hasn't happened since. So your body keeps healing over time. I really think I think it takes a full year for you to be almost 100%, but it really takes 2 or 3 years for you really to sort of reclaim all that continence function, assuming you don't have issues with continence. A lot of men will. But if you're able to hold urine once the catheter comes out, you very likely will have very little problems over a period of time. Sometimes it's months, sometimes it's weeks. It could even be a year or two. If you do find that your catheter comes out and you have no control over urine, and this is the case for a considerable number of men, then sometimes it comes back, sometimes it doesn't. And I continue to say, if you have done your kegels and you really strengthen that area, your odds are very good that you won't have any long-term problems. But it is a potential side effect, and it is something we all know about going into it. Erectile function is something that we really want to try to figure out as quickly as possible. When you have surgery, you should not attempt to test out your sexual prowess for at least a month after surgery, or 3 weeks after your catheter comes out. And then what you can do is, let's call it a month after surgery. If you want to try and see if there's anything going on down there, I would recommend probably masturbation, simply because you don't want the anxiety of having to perform, because you're not only trying to perform with your partner, you're trying to make sure that things are working, and you really want to get very sexually charged as much as possible. So with no distractions, you should give it a go and see what happens. For me, 3 weeks, 4 weeks after surgery, roughly 3 weeks after my catheter came out, I did try. I was not able to get an erection, but I was able to get stimulated and have an orgasm. And so that was one very, very promising after effect, is the fact that I could still at least have an orgasm, maybe not an erection at the point in time. But I did try a test with Viagra just to see if Viagra worked, and it did. So I at least knew something was happening there, but I couldn't do it on my own for a few weeks. But to my delight, as the weeks went by, I was able to get more and more of an erection. And the secret there, and I don't know how scientific this is, but you have to go at it constantly, 3 to 5 times a week. Really try to get yourself excited with a partner, with masturbation, as much as you can. The more you try to engage in sexual or pleasurable function, your brain will then start to reconnect things. And as long as the nerves haven't been damaged in surgery, which is something that happens in some cases, then you should be able to get erectile function back sooner than later. And even if there's ongoing problems, there are different methods. A lot of men like the injection. There's an injection that seems to work very well. For others, Viagra works well. And, above and beyond that, it's just each of us are going to have a different experience. I mentioned nerves. So when you are interviewing your surgeon, you want to always ask them about their technique for removing your prostate. What the surgeons will try to do as best as they can is to leave the nerves intact. So your prostate is, think of it like an orange, and the orange peel are the nerve bundles that surround the prostate. So the easy and fast way to remove your prostate is to just cut through the nerves and pull the prostate out. And there's a great tendency for the nerves to be damaged. And these are the nerves that will give you an erection. So if they're damaged, erectile function becomes problematic. You always want to ask your surgeon about their nerve sparing technique. And one technique, which is what my surgeon, Dr. Samadi, did, is rather than slice through them and peel them apart, he has a method of coming at the prostate from the side and kind of plucking it out, leaving the nerves intact. And I'm living proof, as are many of his patients, that his technique works because a lot of us retained erectile function and very quickly. But the two side effects we're mostly concerned with are erectile function and incontinence. But so anyway, there's a lot more I could always talk about. This has kind of been not dragging on for a little bit, but I could talk forever, as you can see. So if you are about to go through surgery or you've just come out of surgery, the recovery, it's not horrific. And every step of the way, from the surgery to the recovery, these were all things that I thought I would have a very bad experience with. And I think I did as best as I could. I think I'm very lucky, very blessed, because my outcome was quite good. I was 51 years old at the time. So when you're a little bit younger, I think your body has the ability to recover more quickly. I kept myself very physically in shape. My last video, I talked about the training regimen that I had and the diet that I had leading up to surgery. Although after surgery, my diet was out the window because I just wanted to eat all kinds of crap. And then the Kegel exercises. So if you're on the other side of surgery, welcome to this side. Welcome to this new world. I do wish you the best. If you have specific questions about what you're going through and you've just had surgery, just post them in the comments or send me a direct message, and I'll try to answer them as best I can. In some cases, I have to go back to my old videos because those old videos were really a daily diary of what was on my mind at the time and what I was feeling at the time. So over the 9 years since, some of those memories disappear, which is actually a good thing. It's a good thing that 9 years later, my memories of those fears are still there a little bit, but life really got back to normal, so I don't think about it a lot. Your sexual function is never exactly the same as it was, but it's adequate enough. It's enough for pleasure, and it's enough to sort of keep you happy. It's nothing that, it's nothing that's going to dramatically change. With that being said, I do always understand and recognize that there are some of you that may have difficulties with both erectile and incontinence, and sometimes they're very difficult to resolve, if not unresolvable. And that's a whole other topic, because there's the mindset. What happens, when you don't regain those functions, and they're such an important part of your life. So anyway, I just wanted to update all of you, and like I said,